All right, so this morning we're going to talk about an entertainer. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I said it, entertainer. Yeah, he was a jazz musician, piano player, played all kinds of styles and all that, but he was also a composer of all kinds of styles and all of that. And he also came out of vaudeville, so he was like a comedian as well, you know, and kind of a playwright as well, and an actor, and he did everything. Yeah, he was born in New York in 1904, and he was named Thomas Wright Waller, and friends called him Fats Waller for a lot of reasons. He liked to eat. Well, that was part of it, okay, and what that does to your body is why they call him Fats. And, you know, he started out at a young age with this whole music thing. You know, he was in a kind of a home that supported the whole musical idea there. I think his dad may have been a preacher or something like that. You know, preachers are always looking for a piano player, organ player, or something. So young Tommy, better known as Fats, he started playing the piano and organ at a very, very early age. Yeah, and he played not just the organ, as my friend Jack Todd used to say, the organ, he played the organ too, the big pipe organ that you find in big old Catholic cathedrals and stuff like that. He played that, and he played the piano. And he started that journey into music somewhere around the age of 6. Yeah, they got him started right away and need a piano player in the church. So there go young Fats, figuring out that piano thing. Well, he figured it out pretty fast. He had a really, really creative mind and a real bubbly spirit, so he had a lot of happiness going on, a lot of joy, and that came out through his music, whether it was in the church or at home. And people just loved being around him and his music. By 15, he's already a professional musician, which means he's getting paid. He's going out doing gigs and getting paid. And by 18, he's a recording artist. Yeah, recording for OK in 1922 or so, yeah. And by 1924, he's already publishing his songs. Publishing, that's right. The man had a spirit of entrepreneurship. Oh, this is mine. This is mine. It's my music, as Prince would say. This is my music. And if you want this, oh, you're going to pay for it. Now, we know that he published over 400 songs under his own name. But we imagine that due to the fact that he was a prolific writer, could write in any style, and popular songs, he could write them like eating popcorn, he probably published another 400 songs as a ghostwriter, in other words, under somebody else's name, for which he would be paid immediately in cash for writing these songs. You give me $200, I'll give you this song. You give me $300, I'll give you this song. You give me $500, I'll give you the song. And people might say, oh man, he was giving away, you know, his legacy. Well, this was nothing to him. He did it like nothing, and he needed the money now, because after all, he was a big man who liked to eat, and he also liked to live good. Did I say he liked to live good? He liked to live good. Yes, he did. So he continued to go out there and do what he did. He's a recording artist here at the early age of 18. He is getting very, very popular because everyone loves his personality and loves his playing. He did that whole stride piano thing here, fistful of keys and all that kind of stuff. And James P. Johnson was one of his teachers and mentors. He learned from the best and he taught the best. You can say that Fats and his stride piano style may have set the pace for the people that followed him, even people like Father Hines and even people down through Thelonious Monk, especially down through the bebop era. They all took notice of Fats and what he was doing. Now, Fats did not limit himself just to the jazz. He played popular songs. Ain't Misbehaving, Honeysuckle Rose. These are songs for which he won Grammys 50, 60 years after his death, because they're popular songs that appeal to everyone. To understand that he could do it all. I mean, really, he could do it all. There was a situation in which he was hired to work on Broadway. I said it, black man working on Broadway. Of course, they had to have him work kind of like in the background. So he was supposed to have some bit parts as kind of a comedian, you know, comic relief in the 40s, like they used black folks in these kind of productions, and, you know, do a little music as well. Well, Fats liked everything in abundance. His food and some other habits he had. He loved drinking as well, and he did it like he ate. He did it in abundance. And so they were having trouble just kind of containing Fats in this Broadway thing. So they kind of closed out his role on stage and made him the music director, which means when Early to Bed hit Broadway in 1943, it was the first Broadway musical to feature music written by a black man for an audience that was predominantly white. Let's be clear about this. There were already black playwrights and black musicians who were writing music for plays and that kind of thing, and even some black produced movies, but these were blacks writing for blacks. 1943, Early to Bed is a black man writing music that appeals to whites. So Fats could do it this way, and he could do it that way. In terms of his music, you can say, like Louis Armstrong, he was one of the early crossover artists. Before he even got to that point, in the 30s, command performances in Europe, primarily the UK and Ireland. They're like, we don't believe this, that this can be done by a black person, because after all, they'd been invaded by the original Dixieland band, 10 years earlier. So Fats had to go over there and bring a little truth with him, and he did. And he was a splash wherever he went, the genius. And his bubbling personality made friends everywhere. When he came back to the States, never had his stock been higher, and after getting out to California, he participated in the making of one of the groundbreaking movies that combines Hollywood with jazz, Stormy Monday. You know? Now, understand something. This was major. And Fats all of a sudden is on screen as an actor, as a singer, as a keyboard artist, and the world is at his feet. He's just doing all these great things. After, of course, he went to Europe and came back, kind of like 50 years later when Jimi Hendrix would go to Europe and come back. It's that kind of a journey. Now, Fats continued to have a very, very popular following among all Americans in this country. And he had the financial rewards to prove that. He was the first black to integrate one of the most exclusive Asbury Park neighborhoods in Queens, New York. He was the first. And later, Count Basie moved in, Ella Fitzgerald moved in, and Lena Horne moved in, yeah. But Fats was the first. So he also understood his role as a black man in moving his people forward through what were some challenging times for black folks, the 30s and 40s. At the height of his career, after playing the Zanzibar out in California, he's on his way back from LA on the Silver Chief train, baby, big fast train that runs from LA to Chicago. And then he's gonna take another train from Chicago to New York. He got a little ill at the Zanzibar, and somewhere on the journey around Kansas City, he fell very ill and was diagnosed with pneumonia. And in the middle of this train trip, he died at the age of 39, and one of the greatest geniuses that this country has produced in terms of being a true artist who can do it all, like a Sammy Davis, you know, can do it all, like a Michael Jackson, like so many other black artists to follow him, who can sing and dance and write music and act and do all of that. Fats was the first. Well, he went to a higher plane in 1943 in the midst of a trip on the Silver Chief from LA to Chicago. His funeral was held at the Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem, which is most certainly the most famous church in Harlem, and still the largest and most powerful church in Harlem, New York. The pastor at that time was the Reverend Adam Clayton Powell, who was also a congressman at that time, one of the most important congressmen. When I went to college back in the 60s, the loan I got was the NDEA, National Defense Education Act, and that was sponsored by Adam Clayton Powell. So I pretty much owe my education to Adam Clayton Powell. Very important figure. If you don't know him, please learn about him. But getting back to Fats, upon walking into the sanctuary to deliver the eulogy for Fats, Adam Clayton Powell, who at that time was married to a jazz vocalist and keyboard player, so he had a great love for this music and a great familiarity with musicians. He most certainly would have known Fats. He looked around, and inside that church were 4,200 people jammed in, crammed in to pay their final respects to the Fats. And Adam Clayton Powell, who I most certainly did meet, and I know how he would have done this, he looked around, he said, well, well. He said one thing about that Fats, he always did play to a packed house. And so we will end this story of the great Fats Waller by saying, he always was a bundle of joy. His chief collaborator in songwriting was Andy Roddick, who he found running elevators in Harlem, but by birth should have been a king in a kingdom in Macedonia in Africa had it not been for colonialism. That's right, Andy Roddick looked that one up too. Let us remember that Fats Waller always played to a packed house, even when he said goodbye. Now, that ain't the end. He had a plan. He liked to have a great exit as well. So after his funeral, he was cremated. And then his ashes were taken way up into the sky by an African-American pilot who was a veteran aviator from World War I. Yeah, Fats believed in his history. And that pilot got to fly the ashes around as they were spread all over Harlem. So, Fats is still playing to a packed house, because Harlem is always packed, baby. Thank you very much.